Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. We're so honored, and we just have to thank our mutual friend, Yasna, who is just, such a bright light in all of our lives. And she's the healer in heels. She's been on our podcast a couple times now for introducing us. And we're excited to dive in and talk about this new book that you have been creating that's evolved over the last several years. And just flipping through it, it is just beautiful. Like the pictures and the photography and the artwork and everything. So can't wait to dive in. But before we do that, one question we love to ask is, if you could do anything today with no constraints, no financial constraints, no time constraints, what would you do?
That's like such a beautiful question, like just that freedom and just your heart's desire. And, I do have to say, though, that I don't think my day would be much different than it already is. Like I'm talking to, you guys are like, honest to God, bright. Like there's light shining on you. The Yasna connection makes me just happy to be in your presence. So to start out with a conversation about things that mean thing with people that you basically think are giants, that you just look up to is a really... I can't think of anything better than that. But then I'd probably, even though it's freezing, go for another walk with my dog. I just really like to be outside. And that's something I think we hit in that book a couple times. And then I'm going to go to work, like both do some work. And then we've got a work party tonight. So I've got my people, that I really love. And we're going to spend some time together. So that, it's not that different, but that's what I would probably choose. So that's pretty lucky.
It is.
That's awesome.
And we're on a little bit of a trend. We've been asking this question for a little while, and the last 3 guests have said that. Like they already are living the life that, a lot of people hope for, if you will, which just is such a testament to
our guests.
Our guests. Exactly. Exactly. So
that's beautiful. Yeah. So Jill, we would love to hear about, pivotal moments that led you to where you are today and to Lifetime. I believe you're the Chief Storytelling Officer, which sounds like a really interesting role. And then, you authored this amazing book in this lifetime.
That's a pretty loaded question because I could go way back.
In a nutshell. How about in a nutshell? So just like tie it up in a nice bow.
So I just, I started doing freelance for Lifetime. When my kid was born, I decided to go from an agency world to freelance world. Lifetime was a client. For a long time, it was very transactional. They'd call me, I'd get the job done. As I started to learn more and more about what the mission of the company was and why it existed in the first place, like, you hear this all the time, my values aligned with Lifetime's. Here's where it got so good, though, was that I had a gift and they could use it, so I made connections with people there that saw what my contribution could be. And so I had no plans for this. You know what I mean? Like I loved a freelance life and I loved being an outdoor cat, but they've afforded me that, like I can still kind of live my life and, be kind of myself, but still contribute to a really, what I think is one of the most important companies in the world. And when we're trying to impact the health and well-being of our planet and the vitality of the people on it, that's great. So that's part of the answer. And then the book just catalyzed because it was inspired by the people at Lifetime, all the different stories, all the people coming in the doors, from like pregnant women to the toddlers that they, bring into the world, who run up the doors because they're so excited to be there, to like 90 to 100-year-old women like this Anna at St. Louis Park. It took her longer on her walker to get to the locker room than her workout, but she was just so happy to be there. And everybody's like, Anna, hi, Anna, this whole chorus, this whole symphony of people excited to see her. So of course she's going to keep going at 100 because she's got a lot of reasons to. So that
community, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that Lifetime is just like a hotbed of community. It's just like, there's a really good connection point for a lot of people.
And maybe for our listeners who don't know what Lifetime is, or, you guys are all over the place now. But just like in a nutshell, like what is Lifetime and what makes it so unique and special as far as the community aspect? You're not just a normal health club.
Right. So Lifetime is a company that's almost 35 years old. We're here in Minnesota. It started here in the suburbs of St. Paul, and it started as Lifetime Fitness. Over the years, we've changed our name. It's no longer Fitness because we've realized that it's just Lifetime. And for a while, we had to call it the Healthy Way of Life Company, but now everybody just kind of recognizes it as a healthy way of life. And we've got like 100, almost 180 athletic country clubs across the nation.
Wow.
Co-working spaces. I think there's 15 of those now. There's apartments, and like Lifetime Living. And so it's really a lifestyle, and it's a brand that just wants to help people improve their lives and affect how they think about their lives. And it's also gone from, and I think this is where we share a lot of space, is that, it's not physical. We're not a gym. That's almost a dirty word, in our word, but we use it because people know it. But, it's about the emotional, it's about the spiritual, it's about the social, it's about so many of those things, and people find it there. So the clubs are beautiful, like they are stunning. You walk in, your jaw drops. I mean, every detail has been thought about, it's a sensory experience. It smells good in there. It's beautiful, the marble and the finishes, and it looks like the Four Seasons. But what I think really makes it just so different and so special is the people. And those people generate the most beautiful, the most friendly, inviting energy that people want and need and love, and it just is a ripple effect.
And you really get a lot of dedicated people that run the classes. Like I'm thinking of Bruce Camp. I know you know him, and I haven't been a member since, I'm assuming you know him, since the pandemic, but he was just always the warmest and friendliest guy. For years he's been around, and I know so many other instructors like that. And that really is a testament to the company.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's Bruce Camps all across the nation. Jerry Hager is at Edina.
Oh yeah, I know Jerry too.
They're iconic, and the energy and the experience that they provide. And so we always kind of say that those classes are a gateway drug, because you come because you want to get healthier and happier. And, that's where it all starts. But then you're there and you realize, oh, but then I could do this, or wait, that's going to happen here Friday night. I can expand there. There's nothing, nowhere else to go that offers like a party on a rooftop pool, so it's like, there's just so many different aspects, but it is the Bruce Camps and the Jerrys of this world that just really set it on fire, that make it pretty incomparable.
Yeah, it's like you're almost creating this like blue zone community within Lifetime. So, which is great.
We are huge fans of Dan Buettner, so that's an amazing compliment. And it's true. We talk about healthy living, healthy aging. You're aging from the day you're born. So we'll just try to make the most of that whole experience. And that's what the book is about, we go beyond cradle to grave, that experience. So I hope Dan Buettner hears this and is and loves us.
And wants to come on our show, because we've asked him a number of times.
He's from Minnesota, so lots of connections.
Yeah, let's put it out for him.
So let's dive in and talk about how did this book come to be? We know that it took many years for a variety of reasons. Let's just dive in and talk about it.
Okay. So again, after spending some time there and understanding the people, and just everybody's on their individual journey, we're all so different and unique, but at the same time, so much of life is this shared experience. We go through the same obstacles, challenges, the good times, the bad, the thresholds, of change. And so there's more about this experience that we share than we're used to. So I started to think about that and, just witness it. And so I took a project to Brahma Krati, who's the CEO and president, and just said, we talk about this, we tell people how, but if we pulled the camera out a little bit, or pulled the lens out and just showed the collective experience, and then it's basically celebrating what Lifetime does, that end result or that benefit. And I didn't even get done with my little presentation. You talk about nutshells, everything's a nutshell with him because he's just moving so fast. He's like, go, 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 go. But here's the just the funny part. Like, I'm like, okay, I'll go write a book. And so I wrote the book, like I kind of had an idea, because there's a lot of stuff to choose and, like to get into at Lifetime. I took that to him. It looked like a craft project, or like a sixth grade, art thing. I like was cutting and pasting and, putting it all together with the pictures and everything. And he said, okay, I love it. Go get it done. And I'm like, oh, how am I I don't know how to do that, and then it's like, it's money, it's people that, I needed an art director and a producer and a photographer and an illustrator. I needed all that stuff. I hadn't thought about that. Right. And so then things magically realigned at Lifetime. So I got those people and I got the best people with Nick Berglund and Amy Demarest. Like it was like divine how we all came together with our different little talents and abilities. And Brahm, subsidized it. He gave us the budget to go do it well. And then we got it all together. And the day we went to ask for quite a bit of money to get it published was the day that the clubs all closed for COVID. And I like to say that we tabled the coffee table book, because you don't go ask for, like he was so stressed. I mean, it was a terrible time. So it got put on hold. So then a couple of years later, the company is doing so well. I mean, it's just thriving. We reapproached and he said, go. And that was a process too, but here we are. So I don't do well with nutshells.
Well, congratulations, first of all, because I know, like, putting a book together, I wrote a memoir and it took me 2 years to get it done, basically. And a coffee table book just has so much more intricate detail in terms of the photography, and it's just a whole different can of worms. So, and that's amazing that you had such a strong team behind you and the financial piece behind you. So that's amazing. And I'm thinking about, like, when you developed this book, you wanted people to feel as they were going through the book and, think about their own lives.
I think there is a myriad of feelings that I would love to say that the book can evoke, from just that reawakening feeling of, oh my God, here I am. Like, what a miracle that is. Like, I think we lose touch with that we just take it for granted. We go through the motions, call it sleepwalking or whatever. So just maybe it's surprise or awe. Like, I would love for that to be, one of the feelings in the little quiver. I would love for them to feel a sense of agency, that are empowered or confident about that they can do all the things that kind of all add up to a healthy, happy life. I would love for them to feel motivated and inspired. And I would love them to feel urgency, like a tingling of like, oh God, I only got this much time, so I really do need to make the most of it. I love this question. I think it's a beautiful question. And then I think at the end of the day, if there was one emotion that I would just be so humbly grateful for, is just that everyone can feel fulfillment, that going beyond happiness to just the sense of, as your days go by and life progresses, that you can get to this time where you just look back and you just say, I kind of nailed that. It was a pretty good life. I had a good time. I helped other people have a good time too. So it's like that fulfillment is probably the holy grail for us.
And, one thing I kept thinking about every time I turned the page, it was like, I paused and went inward and spent some time. And even though it's a book you could flip through very quickly, it's almost better to digest it like a couple pages at a time and really sort of go inward and then pick it back up again and then look at it. Right. So in so many of the just ideas and concepts and motivation behind each page is a lot of what we have been doing on the podcast, talking about whether it's food or different movement or going inward or, the mental and emotional aspects, and just finding joy in like the little things and sleep. Like, so it really like encapsulates like literally so many conversations that we've had on this podcast into one book where you're just reading like a sentence or two every page.
Yeah.
Which is actually a dream that I've had for us to do for with what we've done with our podcast is make a coffee table book, and, along the lines of the things that we've the nuggets.
Right. That the guests have shared or we've shared. And so, anyway, it was very inspiring and motivating for me when I was flipping through it. And I know that this was just such a great gift to give to people too, because I do think it'll trigger something inside of them.
Yeah. I did a little recognizance on you guys, and that, you're, if you summarized what your intention is, I think it's healthy and happy. And, we did some research at Lifetime a few years ago, like with this guy, Corky Hall, and he was great. And we talked to so many of our members and team members, and it came down to healthy and happy for Lifetime too. So I love it when we're on parallel paths, because I feel like we're on this mission. And there's a spread in the book. It's just about the super magnet. If you remember that, that we are all super magnets, and that if we align all this energy into one direction, what a powerful force that is. So for you to say that, to understand that each one has a little bit of meaning in it, and that if we all just kind of work on all those things and just think about it, to remember and to be conscious about that, that's a win for us. So, I mean, the fact that we're out trying to align and put what's good and healthy to this world for more vital, happy people. Oh my God, that's our dream. I got a little goosebump on that, we get to do that. And I think we've got to believe that it's working, right? I think when I think of you and Yasna, you guys had that mold medic on your podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, mold. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not into that, You guys, I was leaning forward about healthy air and thinking about how we breathe in all these things and take it in. And I was just he's got the same intention too. So it's I thank you for bringing that to that. Again, I couldn't wait to get back into my car to turn it back on, because just he's read in the book about lungs. It's one of those things that we don't think about them, but
right.
start to breathe. And it's how beautiful those lungs are and how those systems work in there, all of those things. So it's all interconnected. And I don't know if I'm excited about that, but I'm just happy.
It's important to know and learn and educate yourself on, right? That's where we're okay, this isn't something we know a lot about. We're not experts in this, but we know it's important. We spend all of our time breathing, right? We breathe 24/7. So that's why we wanted to bring that topic to light.
Yeah, I love it. So I think we're good. We're aligned, and then we're moving in the right direction. So I'm just so tickled to be in your company,
So if you wanted to talk to our listeners and share a piece of advice, or it could be something from the book that you love, what would you say to our audience?
There's a quote, and I'm not going to remember who it is right now, but it's the quote goes something like, the problem is you think you have time. I think it actually might be Rumi that says that. The problem is you think you have time. And I would just like to encourage people to remember that we might not, nothing is promised. And so there's another quote. All of a sudden I'm starting to sound like the quote dictionary or something, but in the book, that Omar Khayyam quote about be happy in this moment is your life. So just to kind of to take the time every day to remember that you're alive, and that in itself is such a miracle. The random chance of all of that is it's such a celebration, that's such a beautiful idea that we overlook and take for granted all the time. So I can't just stop there, of course. I mean, but that's where you start, I think, is just to remember that, because then that consciousness, or that, that waking up to your life is necessary to help you move through it,
Yeah. And so true. Stephanie and I talk about time a lot, and trying to be present and be in the moment.
The other thing I really loved about the book is some of those stories, the personal stories that you've peppered in as well, which I think always it can help people look inward a little bit, relate to them, reflect. How did you pick some of those, or what were you trying to share to the reader through the stories that you selected?
I think I could boil it down to two things. One, that you're not alone. You're not the first person that's going to go through something. And that if you can realize that and try to make connection, I think that there's a common denominator in those stories of kind of like pain or loss, but then it's about perspective and being able to kind of either recontextualize or use it as a lesson and to grow and change from it. Like a friend of mine, Melody, is the one that had cancer and lost her hair. And I mean, that's a devastating experience. And so many people go through it, and there's conversations about it, and there's all sorts of help and, different associations. But she had a perspective shift of saying, okay, I lost my hair. I've always had thin hair that I didn't like. Now is my chance to have any hair that I want. And that girl had a lineup of wigs in her closet, that she could be anybody that she wanted to be hair wise. So she looked for the positive, framed it up optimistically. And I think that that's a story that should be shared,
Mm-hmm.
O'Callaghan, he needed a new heart, and he spent so much time in the hospital waiting for this heart. And I mean, you could just atrophy and die. You know what I mean? Just not knowing and not feeling good, and being in a hospital with all the groaning down the hall and the, sickness and the sadness. But that guy, he is like, okay, I got this capsule of time. I'm expecting a heart. I know it's on its way. I am going to make the most of this. And, spoiler alert, here's part of the story on it, but it's like that he learned a new language. He learned how to needlepoint. He's like, and I made friends with all the nurses. I love those nurses, especially the ones that gave me the sponge baths. He laughter in it. And that's another thing that's in there with the stories, that there's going to be pain. There's going to be obstacles, but laughter is one of the most potent healers that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And, emerge in that, or to be surrounded by that, that's a gift. And another thing just to be conscious of and remember, to be able to find humor in all the things that happen to us.
Yep. Absolutely. So, and maybe this can even just be drawn from your life. You talked about time a bit, but if you could leave our listeners with something that they is super actionable that they can get out there and do today. Maybe it's the book, or just maybe it's your experience, your life experience, or something that you do on a regular basis. What would it be?
If your listeners were to do one thing, I think it would just be to stop for a moment, to just find some stillness, to find some peace, to quiet their minds and just remember who they are. And remember what a beautiful, ecstatic experience it is to be like these, to be who you are, and to have your constellations of atoms, being expressed in this universe. I mean, it's such a miracle. So it's that one thing is just remember the miracle that you are.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And there, you actually have a passage in the book, and I wrote this down because it was one of my favorite quotes was, go to that place where you remember who you really are. So
I think I was consistent there, but in a roundabout way. So thank you for bringing that up. That's one of my favorite spreads in that book, is just the simplicity of that. And it can be as much as just closing your eyes for, a brief second, or in the shower, just finding quiet. There's so much coming at us from every direction, and it's just this, not only the chatter of our mind, but a 24-hour news cycle, and, the scrolling, and it's loud and it's a cacophony. So just to get that simple, to tune in to the frequency of your voice and your soul is paramount. And we've lost touch with that, I think, and it takes so little to get back to it. It can happen in just an instant, or, just a quick moment of time.
Well, and it's funny because our last question is always, what does the art of living well mean to you? And I feel like you just answered it before we even asked the question, but you might have something to add.
I love that your podcast is called The Art of Living Well, because in listening to so many of the experts that you have on here and the experience that you guys have as health coaches, and there's so much science and information and knowledge, and we're so wired to know and understand that, understand how we work, our systems, our biology, our physiology, everything that makes us alive. We can factually and scientifically figure that stuff out. But where it gets really beautiful to me is that the art of living well, because it's taking what you know and then applying it to your life. And the outcome of that is something beautiful. It's something only you can create, a way that only you can shine. So that's what it means to me, is just being able to personalize what you know, to be curious and find that out, to do some intake, understand like how things work, but then to just apply that to the beauty and the emotion of your own life, that you can move through a living, breathing, heart-beating creature, like that's art, I think.
That was so beautiful, the way you said that. I mean, that is like how we feel, but you just like poetically articulated that so well. So,
and I do love the name of the book, In This Lifetime. And I like how you've kind of sprinkled it throughout the conversation. It's just kind of dropped in there.
Yes. And we will link up all the places that you can find it, including on Lifetime's website, in the show notes. So
I will evangelize this as much as I can. Again, thank you for the work that you do. I don't want to go all fangirl on you, but I salute you and I thank you. And I think please don't stop. And if there's anything I can do to help you, I would love to continue our conversation. And I think we'll cross paths again, just because Yasna has us meeting on her quantum bridge, so well,
yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, you wore the right color too. We're all like coordinating.
Yes, I love the coordination.
Not on YouTube. Jill's wearing pink. Of course, I'm wearing pink, and Marnie has some pop of pink in her sweater. So we're all aligned today.
We are aligned, and I even like literally aligned with your stripes there. I love it. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jill, for coming on. It's been a wonderful conversation today, and
have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day, wonderful holiday, everything. All right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.